everyone please rise? We'll be led in prayer by Alderwoman Gould.
Almighty God, we ask for your blessing upon the members of this council as we assemble here in this chamber to conduct the ongoing business of our city. With your guidance, we will strive to ensure that all our decisions are for the common good, and your inspiration will instill respect, compassion, and thoughtfulness in all our deliberations. Give us the strength and wisdom to lead by example as the people's representatives, and that peace and harmony will mark all our proceedings and keep us faithful to the trust placed in us by the citizens of your community. Amen.
Amen.
Alderwoman Filbert, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good evening, everyone. Before we begin the citizen comment general, I'm going to ask for suspension of the rules of the council to add 2 resolutions to our agenda. These requests came in this afternoon. One deals with the Global City Initiative and the Peruvian Festival, which is scheduled for the 29th of July. And this is the only meeting left between then and now. Now and then, excuse me. And the second one deals with the acoustic festivals that are happening on the Norwich Town Green. That is the 2 resolutions. They would be numbered 6 and 7 in that order, if acceptable to the council. I'd entertain a motion for suspension of the rules.
I'll make a motion we suspend the rules.
Nash, is there a second?
Second.
Gould, all those in favor of suspension? Unanimous. A motion to add resolutions 6 and 7 to our agenda, please. Nash, second by Gould. All those in favor? It's unanimous. Thank you for your indulgence.
Which one is 6 and 7, sir?
6 is the Peruvian resolution for the festival on the July 29th, and 7 is the Norwich Harbor Management Commission's request to the Chamber of Commerce. Okay, this evening, declare that Citizen Comment General is open, and 2 people did sign up. The first person, Marvin Ceruto.
Good evening. Marvin Ceruto, 100 Star Street, Norwich, Connecticut, the United States of America. First and foremost, a very large thank you to everyone involved. It's very nice to see the lifeguards up at Mohegan Park, and the fireworks festival was tremendous. That's all I can say. There's no need to say any more. Thank you very much to everybody involved in that. Just a question on West Main Street. It's nice to be updated on that. I'm pretty sure that we're not going to drop the ball on that, because it is state of Connecticut, Route 82, and I just want to make sure that we're kept informed and aware, and we make sure that we put as much participation into that as we possibly can. I noticed a business up on West Main Street has requested to move license, so that tells me some things are happening up there. So I'd enjoy a report or some kind of input on that. And also the Sherman Street Bridge. Now, I noticed Sturtevant Street Bridge is getting worked on. Sherman Street Bridge, I'm fully aware that there's funding, but if you get up there and look around, the bridge is in some sad shape, and it's used quite a bit. And so I was just wondering how that's progressing. And other than that, thank you very much, and enjoy this July.
Thank you. Beryl Fishbone.
Beryl Fishbone, 19 Bliss Place, on behalf of the City of Norwich, Mohegan Park Improvement, Development, and Advisory Committee. At our meeting on July 12th, our members, Beryl Fishbone, Bill Barbuto, Judy Magnano, Rebecca Malucci, Kyle Seitz, Samantha Venturo, and Councilman Sam Browning moved on a motion to publicly thank the members of the Norwich City Council. the Department of Human Services, Department of Public Works, and the Department of Recreation for addressing the issue of safe swimming at Spalding Pond by funding the necessary lifeguards for the 2018 summer season. Spalding Pond is an important asset to our city, and placing the needs and safety of the community above politics demonstrated your individual commitments to making Norwich a better place to live and work. Our thanks also to the multiple media outlets locally and across the state that have included Mohegan Park and the beach in their glowing and positive reports during the recent heat wave. We hope that in 2019, there will be a future funding and trained lifeguards for the beach to be open from Memorial Day through Labor Day. Again, from all of us on the Mohegan Park Committee, thank you. On Sunday, August 12, 2018, beginning at 8:30 a.m., Mohegan Park is proud to welcome the Connecticut Plein Air Painters Society. All artists are welcome to paint, sketch, and photograph our lovely park with artists from across the state as they enjoy and explore our 400 acres. As always, with grateful thanks to the taxpayers of Norwich, there are no fees for admission, parking, or participation in this program. The final results of the artists will be seen in private and public collections, galleries, and outlets throughout New England, helping to spread the word of our local beauty. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else like to address the council during, yes, David.
Good evening, David Crabb, 47 Prospect Street. Last week I had my day in court, and I was reminded when I was preparing about Mr. Falwell making a lighthearted comment about bringing the knowledge of his staff to the city council for assisting me. My small claim action was defended by an attorney who must have been a criminal defense lawyer from the action that he would use to confront my claim. I don't use the library that much, and mostly for the reference section, but I was helped immeasurably, and I think my use of the CGS weighed better than the attorneys did. So I want to commend the staff that Mr. Falwell leads down there, so let it be known. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else like to address the council on any issue? Please.
Hi, good evening. I just want to say thank you for passing the resolution. I'm here on behalf of Global City Norwich. I'm Suki Lagrito, and we are really focused on bringing community and culture to the downtown area. And with this first event, we are really expecting great support and a big attendance. So thank you again, and we look forward to more events.
Thank you. Anyone else like to address the council on any matter? Anyone else like to address the city council on any other matter? Third time. Anyone else like to address the council on citizen comment general? Seeing no one else, I declare it closed, and thank you all for your participation.
Public hearings. An ordinance appropriating $675,000 for integrating and improving Norwich Public Schools and City of Norwich administrative functions, and authorizing the issue of $675,000 bonds of the city to meet said appropriation, and pending the issuance thereof, the making of temporary borrowings for such purpose.
I declare this public hearing open, and I would invite anyone who would like to speak in favor of this ordinance. You will have 3 minutes. Please identify yourself with your name and your address. Is anyone here who would like to speak in favor of this ordinance? Please.
My name is Linda Theodorou. I live at 37 Taftville Ockham Road. A couple of weeks ago, I did speak in favor of it in detail, and I would like to reiterate my support for the software consolidation. This is the 21st century, and I'm glad that we are looking at 21st century solutions for saving money. Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you for returning. Marvin Ceruto.
Marvin Cerruto, 100 Star Street, Norwich, Connecticut, United States of America. I just wanted to simply say that I have an opinion when we spend $675,000 that it should be on a referendum. I think 250 is about what we should be voting on. Anything above that, absolutely. I hope you think this through. I just wanted to remind the council that the personality that Norwich wants to take is one of fiscal responsibility. That's not to say we want to be cheap. We would like to be frugal and efficient, and that's all I wanted to remind the council on. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else like to speak in favor of this ordinance? Anyone else in favor of this ordinance? Anyone else in favor of this ordinance? Seeing no one else, anyone opposed to this ordinance? Sir.
Good evening, Rodney Boyd, 62 Roosevelt Avenue. You folks heard me speak the last time against this particular ordinance. Now, I don't think enough research has been done about this. I know there's an outfit out there named Cisco Systems. This is where they make their money, going between systems. I don't think we've done enough research on this, and I think it's a huge sum of money to be putting out here. I don't see it solving the problem. Now, $675,000 will buy you one hell of a lot of electronics. And I just don't think we need to do it like this. I told you last time I spoke here that this should have been a budget item. I am deathly against bonding over and over and over again. And I've seen this. I was here when they boomed it up to 800,000 many years ago. And I was against it then. We're $50 million in a hole. And we're digging a hole faster than we're pulling out of it. And that's exactly what's happened to the state of Connecticut and numerous other places, including the United States government. You folks and other previous councils have done this over and over and over again. It's not necessarily just you folks. I've watched this thing go from 25,000 to 50,000, and it just keeps on going and going. We're spending $100,000 a year just on interest alone. And if we spend another $5 million paying it off, we could have bought fire trucks with the amount of money that we're paying back on this. And we're just digging a hole deeper and deeper and deeper. And I told you before, I'm not going to be around to pay this thing off. It's your kids.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else in opposition? Yes, Mr. Pratt.
Again, good evening, David Crabb, 47 Prospect Street. This is a supplemental budget. Only the budget can put this many items together. It's strictly against the charter. Now, this should actually belongs on the back burner because one of the candidates for governor recently said that people are leaving the state in record numbers. Well, they're leaving Norwich too. This should be after the property tax reevaluation, because I can see downtown being cleared just like it was back in 1987. Now, first off, Charter Chapter Roman 5 about the council says in Section 4, the form of the ordinance confines itself to a single topic. Here's your supplement. Topic 1 is Phase 1. Now you got another topic, Phase 2. And then it goes down to Topic 3, which says if there's any money left over, you can't be bonding for 16 years for something that only goes on for 1 year between phases. It's strictly against the charter. Borrowing limits the bond term to the life of the improvement. Improvement 1 is only 1 year. This is a capital improvement, and if it was put on a capital improvement budget, you would have to break it apart into its separate components, and that's what should be done here when you're discussing it. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else like to speak against SOP? Yes, go ahead, sir.
My name is Robert Anders, 31 East Avenue. I would like to echo their objections, but my specific objection is about a month and a half ago, you guys passed a budget, and that included the Board of Education budget, which presumably covered all the expenses that the public schools would need for the fiscal year. And this seems to me like something that should be included in that budget. They get about 70% of the entire city's budget, so I can't quite understand how they couldn't have planned for something like this. Having to update software systems is a pretty normal, routine thing to do in a business or in any kind of organization. So planning ahead for something like this, if they can't plan ahead to know what kind of software they'll need at the beginning of a year, how can we believe that they'll be able to spend this money wisely? That's my principal objection. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else in opposition to ordinance number 1?
Brian Koblar, 16 Hobart Avenue. Not necessarily speaking an objection, but a cautionary tale. This will consolidate your software, computers, networks throughout the city into one system. It also brings into effect outside vendors to the city having portals into that. All you need is one flaw outside with one of those vendors, and your databases could be exposed. Or the system could be shut down, as has happened to other cities and hospitals around the country and internationally. Cybercrime is growing, and we need to be prepared for it. When I was looking at this one item, I did not see a line portion in there to handle IT security. It's going to cost additional money to buffer ourselves and ensure that we are not hacked. And you need to budget for that. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else like to speak in opposition to ordinance number 1? Anyone else for ordinance number 1? Anyone else to opposition to ordinance number 1? Seeing no one else, I declare that hearing closed. Thank you all for sharing your concerns. 2, please.
Okay, public hearing number 2, an ordinance providing regulation to eliminate illicit discharges and illegal connections to stormwater drainage systems for controlling the introduction of pollutants into the municipal separate storm sewer system, MS4.
Thank you. I declare this public hearing open and invite anyone who would like to speak in favor of this ordinance. Yeah, please.
Good evening. I'm Pat McLaughlin, City Engineer. I'd just like to speak in favor of this, saying that this ordinance will help the city comply with the current MS4 regulations and general permit. MS4 stands for Municipal Separate Storm Sewer System. The first general permit was issued by the state in 2004. So we've been working, doing stormwater sampling and compliance with that since then. They issued a new permit in 2016, which is a little more stringent and requires more activities by the city. One of the things that it requires is establishing a legal authority to enforce illicit discharges. That's what this ordinance speaks to. We want to ensure that our waters are kept clean. In order to do that, we need to make sure that people are not discharging any type of pollutants into the stormwater collection system. So this establishes authority to help the city ensure that we can legally enforce any kind of pollutants that we see entering our storm system from any sources. We ask for your approval tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else like to speak in favor of this ordinance?
Marvin Ceruto, 100 Star Street, Norwich, Connecticut, United States of America. Yes, I'm in favor of this. Some of you know, for 10 years, I was a nuclear chemist with Florida Power and Light. We did cover the environmental department, and I've done many many observations, a lot of projects in this area. And so I kind of raised my eyebrows a little bit. Shouldn't this have been done around 1975? I kind of curious about that. But anyways, just definitely in favor for separation of stormwater. And hopefully that stormwater runoff program is very comprehensive, because everything that we found, everything we discovered was there are some surprises out there. So I hope that everybody stays alert to some surprises. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else in favor? Excuse me? No.
Deanna Rhodes, City Planner. I just want to speak in favor of this proposal. As the wetlands agent for the city, I just want to make sure that the waters of our city are protected. Our storm sewer system leads right into many wetlands and water courses, and not having an enforcement ability right now causes issues with potential damage to them. So I think this is a really important compliance effort that we need to put forward, and I support the Public Works Department in this effort. Thank you.
Thank you. Sir?
Rodney Boyd, 62 Roosevelt Avenue. It's only common sense that we do something like this, but I would just like to put in a word of caution, because I have buildings that water does or is supposed to run in. I've diverted 90% of them because it's only common sense for the water to do that. But my plumbing systems in a building are actually set up to receive that particular water. And 20 years ago, Marvin said, why didn't they do that? They did. But also, too, there was a mindset from our sewage system that the water actually diluted the sediment that was going to the treatment plant, and so required less treatment. Now, this is going back 20-some years, so there's been a little waffling. What I'd like to say is that these people, when you find them, they aren't criminals. Just because the leader comes down and goes into the plumbing system in their house, be they elderly people or young people that don't know exactly what's going on, they shouldn't be marked as criminals. Yeah, we're going to divert it. Divert all the water. That's the only common sense and right thing to do. But let's not beat these people over the head with this. Sometimes a very common solution, in my instance, all I have to do to the pipe is go like that, and I'm putting it out on the sidewalk. But for that person that can't just go like that, cut them a little slack.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else speak in favor of this ordinance? Anyone else in favor of this ordinance? Anyone else in favor of this ordinance? Seeing no one else, is there anyone in opposition to ordinance number 2? Sir?
David Crabb, 47 Prospect Street. There's a lot of work that has to be done before this can be thought about. For starters, let's look at the fire that happened in the condos on the Route 2 towards Westerly. They had to truck in water for that fire, and the damage was substantial because there was not adequate water. So why hasn't the infrastructure been improved to bring water out in that section of the city? Another thing is, a few years ago, Dunham Street was repaved, and now, let's say 5 years later, it's like driving on a country trail cowpath. That street has been dug up so many times. So before you start digging up to separate, to meet these commitments, Let's think about a couple other things. In my own neighborhood, for example, my house is a prime example. Across the street, the city required the owner to put a concrete floor in his basement. That changed the water level, so now I get water in my basement. Every time there's a heavy storm and the house is kitty corner, I've seen them pumping water out of the basement. So the subsoil in Norwich is a big problem that you got to overcome. You can't have a fire hose, 2,000 feet of fire hose on a reel to handle fires when you're fixing the city infrastructure for stormwater runoff. What are you gaining by running a fire hose up the street? And a few years ago, when the city was real cold, there was a fire downtown. There was fire hoses all over the city because so many fire hydrants were frozen. So there's a lot of work that has to be done subterranean-wise in the city before you start thinking about tearing up more to separate the stormwater when you got all these other existing problems. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone in opposition to ordinance number 2? Anyone else in opposition to ordinance number 2? Seeing no one else in opposition to ordinance number 2 on the third try, declare that hearing closed. Again, thank you for your comments.
Second reading and action of the proposed ordinance is listed above. An ordinance appropriating $675,000 for integrating and improving Norwich Public Schools and City of Norwich administrative functions, and authorizing the issue of $675,000 bonds of the city to meet said appropriation, and pending the issuance thereof, the making of temporary borrowings for such purpose.
Entertain a motion to bring it to the floor, please. Nash and Gould. Waive the full reading of the text as well, please. Is there discussion? Yes, Alderman DeLucia.
Mr. Mayor, would you please call Mr. Pothier to the podium, please?
Certainly. Josh, please.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening. Thank you for being here. I just want to clear up a couple of things. It was my understanding that over the life of this project and the resulting bond, the city will ultimately save somewhere in the order of $500,000 above and beyond the money we're borrowing.
Correct, over $600,000 in present value savings. So that's taking into account that a dollar 20 years from now is not worth a dollar today. So it's, you know, it's discounting the savings out in the future.
And does that savings include the reduction in workforce that we're going to realize through attrition also as a result of this project?
Yeah, that's the primary source of the savings.
And that's a total of 3 people, as I recall, over the life
Yeah,
of the project?
currently, collectively, between the city and Norwich Public Schools, we have about 7 people in total doing payroll and accounts payable functions. And this, the projection I provided assumes that we go from 7 to 4 over a series of years.
So I believe we discussed this. You know that my preference ultimately was for us to pay for this maybe out of undesignated fund balance or maybe out of capital, because I would have rather have done this cash. However, those opportunities did not get realized, so we are bonding the money. So is it fair to say that, as in commentary that we heard, if this project was in the budget, then it would be in the mill rate?
Correct.
Okay. And if it was in the mill rate, essentially, we'd be borrowing that money from the taxpayers?
Correct. I mean, so the other option would have been it would be funded in the capital budget, and it would have pushed out other capital needs.
Okay. Thank you. That's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Alderman Browning.
Thank you. I have two questions. The first is, do you have any response to some of the good questions Mr. Brian raised when he was up here doing his public speaking and raising the issue of security for the system, at least I think on phase 3, in terms of various contractors having access to the portal and preventing additional risk of someone breaking into the system?
So the connection, the city currently uses the Munis software, and we use it through a virtual private network, a VPN, to their data recovery, their data system, data farm, I guess, in Maine. And they have, redundant systems and power supplies and backup recovery procedures in place. So it's a very safe environment.
And the second question I have is, obviously this is a 19-year bond. Am I correct, at least on that?
Yeah, I believe it's a average life of 16 years. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
I mean, my one reservation about this is my fear that this system, Munis, will become obsolete over time and need to be replaced by a new system. And I mean, this is something we've seen with other computer systems over time. Do you have any comments about the stability of this product in the marketplace?
So Munis, the city of Norwich has been using one version or another of Munis for over 25 years, and Munis provides this financial software systems to about 60 towns in Connecticut, about 20 boards of education and regional school districts, and 10 or 11 communities who use it for both towns and their town and board of education operations. They do software updates all the time, and using their hosted solution, software as a service through them with their main data center, you get those updates continuously.
Okay.
Thank you. Other questions will come to? Yes, Alderwoman Burnham.
Hi, Josh. Thank you. If we could back up a little bit, can you explain why this has come to pass now and why we think this is a good time for this opportunity, just to answer some of the questions that have come up?
So over the past few years, we've been looking at the low-hanging fruit, the ones where we just say, let's do a request for proposals and look at our employee benefits broker services or commercial insurance. And now we're getting to the point where if we want to save money, we got to start looking at the fruit that's a little bit higher up there. Now, this project is going to take a lot of work, but I would not put this before you if I didn't think it was worth it. If things are working fine and we don't have an opportunity to save money, then there's no point in doing it. I'm going to be completely honest with you. There's no reason to pursue this if we'd be, ahead continuing to do things the way we're currently doing them. The reason to do this is saving money, saving time, improving internal controls, and for those reasons, I think this is a good idea.
Thank you. Pro Tem Nash?
I just have a quick question and then maybe a comment or two. This project that we're doing, first of all, we sit here as councilmen and we have 2-year terms, and I've never sat here with the idea that I was going to change the city in 2 years. What I was hoping to always do is prepare and plan and set the city up for success in 20 years, 25 years, when I'm not here. But I just want a quick question. This bond in 7 years will actually start saving the city money, not 19 or 20, but in 7 years,
correct,
we'll start realizing a savings or a return on our money. And then in 11 years, we'll actually start getting a positive. And then in 18 years, we actually start getting a $480,000, or roughly almost a $500,000 savings. And then when we finally get that $600,000. So this is not something we got to wait 20 years for, though it has set the city up for 20 years down the line. And yes, of course, things are going to change electronically. I mean, look where we are. I mean, I remember not that long ago when pagers were the rage, and now everyone's got computers in their hands. So I just want to make sure that in 7 years, we actually start receiving a benefit from this bond.
Correct. Yep.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Are there further questions, Comptroller? Yes, Alderwoman Philbrick.
My question is, or my concern is, we have just passed a budget. I mean, we're 16 days into the current fiscal year, and already we have before us a bond request for $675,000. There are a couple of statements in here that confuse me. Projected budget impact. The city implements biweekly payroll between now and 2021. So this bond issue not only pertains to Norwich Public Schools, it pertains to the city of Norwich.
Correct.
Okay. I have been here 15 years, and in 15 years, I have read in the city, in the budget, one of the ways we can save money is to institute a biweekly payroll. What makes you think that you are now going to be able to institute a biweekly payroll? That's a union negotiated item, so I'm confused how you think you're going to do that.
We expect to settle those last straggling union contracts within the next year.
You expect, but there's no guarantees.
I think this is
I can,
highly probable.
Let me help with that. We have been very successful in every union that we've negotiated with. We have the remainder of the unions, two to be exact. We're very confident that they will be going to the biweekly payroll. Like anything else, there's give and take in union negotiations, but using the analogy of Josh, this is a low-hanging fruit one. I don't know why it took 15 years. It shouldn't have taken 15 years.
Okay, and then my only other one is under the risks. And there are always risks. The city and Norwich Public Schools are unable to lose positions through attrition at the rate included in the projections above. According to this, we would not begin to lose through attrition an employee until the year 2023. I'm hesitant only because I remember the telephone system, our new telephone system that was implemented a couple of years ago. And as you are well aware, Josh, it is costing us an arm and a leg. I'm hoping that if we implement this, that there aren't hidden costs and things that arise later on. So, $675,000 in the it's money. It's money that we have to repay, regardless if it's in the mill rate or it's somewhere else. It has to be repaid. So I look forward to the positive returns if I'm still alive in 20 years. Thank you.
Well, thank you. Any further questions? Yes, Alderwoman Gould.
Josh, could you just explain why we're phasing this in, why we have phase 1, 2, and 3?
Yes. So a lot of this has to be done by, to name people specifically, Athena, myself, Tony, Sandy, and we have to squeeze this into, everything else that fits into the year. So it would be irresponsible to try to get this all done in 1 year. If we squeeze it all into 1 year, we would make a lot of mistakes and probably cause a lot more work. So we're trying to break this into bite-sized chunks so that we can implement things as effectively and efficiently as we can.
Thank you.
Welcome. Thank you. Are there further questions of the Comptroller? Josh, thank you very much.
No problem.
Being here. there further concerns or comments on the ordinance before us? Seeing none,
Roll call vote.
please.
Alderman Burnham?
Yes.
Alderman Browning?
Yes.
Alderman DeLucia?
Yes?
Alderwoman Philbrick?
Yes.
Alderwoman Gold?
Yes.
Alderman Nash?
Yes.
Mayor Nystrom?
Yes. The ordinance passes. The vote is 7-0.
Okay, public hearing, second reading and action on the proposed ordinance. An ordinance providing regulation to eliminate illicit discharges and illegal connections to stormwater drainage systems for controlling the introduction of pollutants into the municipal separate storm sewer system, MS4.
I'd ask for a motion to bring this forward, with including the waiving the full text and reading. Yes. Alderman Browning, second. Alderwoman Burnham. Is there discussion? Yes. Alderman Browning.
I would like to invite Pat. I just have a couple questions for you. The first is, my understanding is this was stemmed out of a EPA requirement that then got sent down to our own deep, and we're basically being mandated to do that. Is that essentially correct?
Yes.
I mean, Norwich is not really compliant with the current rules, and I mean, partially that's because we're an old city and we have all kinds of pipes and all kinds of issues, but I mean, we're trying to cooperate with them so that they don't do, they being deep and the EPA don't do something horrible to us, right?
Yeah, well, actually, the combined sewer systems are not part of this regulation. This is just for the separated storm sewer systems. So the city still has some of the very old combined systems, but this ordinance does not impact or regulate those. This is for systems that have been separated already.
And my last question is, will this require additional personnel, additional man-hours? How burdensome is this going to be on the city?
This portion of the MS4 won't really require, I mean, you could do as much as you had time to do. If we had more manpower, we could spend more time on it, but it's probably going to be more reactive than proactive as we try to address these issues now. If we get, if someone brings it to our attention that they think there's an illicit discharge somewhere, then we go out and look at it. We don't necessarily go around looking for these. We're going to have to sample. We're going to be doing sampling of the outfalls, and through that process, when we find pollutants in the outfalls, we're going to we have to trace them back to try to find the sources. But we're not going to be hiring additional personnel, or it's just we're going to have to just try to fit it in with everything else we do.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is there further? Yes. Alderwoman Gould.
Thank you for being here tonight. Will this require us to dig up any roads or streets to comply with the MS4?
No, we're not going to be doing any kind of separation work or anything. It's more of a surface evaluation of seeing what's, I mean, if it could possibly lead to, if we find something connected underground, then we could possibly have to do some digging to take it back to re-separate it, and the ordinance allows us then to recoup our costs and that's the only type of penalties or fines, basically. If we had to do some digging on a private property to separate something, then we would be able to have the authority to bill them for that and recoup our expenses. But we don't plan on going out and doing a lot of that. We don't have any known instances where that's going to be targeted.
Thank you.
Thank you. Are there further questions or concerns? Thank you, Pat. Any further statements? Seeing none, call for vote, please.
Alderwoman Burnham?
Yes.
Alderman Browning?
Yes.
Alderman DeLucia?
Yes?
Alderwoman Philbrick?
Yes.
Alderwoman Gould?
Yes.
Alderman Nash?
Yes.
Mayor Nystrom?
Yes. Ordinance passes. The vote is 7-0.
Okay, petitions and communications. A report from the Commission on the City Plan of the City of Norwich pursuant to Section 8-24 of the General Statutes and Chapter 15, Section 4 of the Norwich City Charter regarding the property at 226, 230 Antic Street.
Entertain a motion to accept the communications, please. Nash, is there a second? Gould? Could we please have it just read into the record? It's a brief letter.
To the Honorable Mayor and all the persons of the Council of the City of Norwich. Resolution relative to consideration of property acquisition of 226-230 Antic Street, Norwich, Connecticut, from Clifford Larkin for access to parking at the Uncas Leap project. The Commission on the City Plan, at its July 13, 2018 special meeting, reviewed the above-mentioned reference referral. Seated were Chairman Art Sharon, Frank Manfredi, Swanjay Singh Bhatia. After careful consideration, the Commission voted to forward a favorable recommendation to the Council pursuant to Chapter 15, Section 4 of the City Charter. Reason: the master plan for the Uncas Leap Heritage Park project shows this parcel as an integral part of the park design, and the acquisition of the property is consistent with the goals of the Plan of Conservation and Development. Respectively submitted, Arthur Sharon.
Thank you. All those in favor of petition being received? Unanimous? 7-0. The vote.
City Manager's report.
Thank you. This is the city manager's report for July 16th, 2018. I attended a meeting at the Read and Use site with the mayor, staff, senior project manager Christine Rogers of the Women's Institute, and Jason Ziegler, owner of the Shannon Building. Work is progressing ahead of schedule. I attended the monthly public safety meeting and also a recap meeting of the Emergency Planning and Preparedness Hurricane Drill that was held in June. At the EPPI meeting, staff and I reviewed and discussed comments from department heads and exterior agencies that participated in the drill and updated a plan to create a safer community in the event of a weather emergency. I received notification from the Connecticut State Library Office of Public Records Administrator that the City Clerk's Office has received an historic documents preservation grant in the amount of $6,500. This will allow the Clerk's Office to preserve an additional 60 books/volumes from years 1964 and prior. Tax payments are being accepted at the Norwich People's Bank branch during the month of July. The bank is also handling the lockbox payments, which allows the city to invest the funds within 24 hours of payment processing. This has resulted in a shorter wait time for individuals paying in person at City Hall. As of July 10th, 10,064 envelopes have been processed, which could include more than one tax payment, i.e. real estate and car, for a total of $1,342,161.09, and 148 individual payments at the branches totaling $147,911.99. The Harbor Management Commission has created a survey to get input and set priorities for managing the Norwich Harbor. A press release was sent to the local papers, and a link to the survey is on the city's website. I invite citizens to take a few moments to complete the survey. The results will be presented at a public meeting later this summer. I have received notice from the U.S. Department of Justice regarding the investigation work of the Norwich Police Department. Their work has led to the imprisonment of a drug dealer who distributed narcotics to a Norwich overdose victim last year. Thank you to the officers that assisted in this case. Thank you to the Norwich Fireworks Committee and sponsors of the annual July celebration. Thousands of people filled Brown Park and the marina to enjoy the festivities and view the fireworks. I also have attached the city's departments for the quarter ending June 30th, 2018. That completes my report for this evening.
Thank you. Are there questions of the city manager? Seeing none, thank you. Forward.
Old business resolution relative to city manager Salamone being authorized to purchase the property at 226, 230 Yantic Street.
Entertain a motion to bring this forward, please. Alderman DeLucia, second Pro Tem Nash. Is there discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Unanimous. Vote 7-0.
Citizen comment and resolutions.
Declare citizen comment on resolutions open. And I invite anyone who'd like to speak on any of the resolutions on our agenda this evening. Please, miss.
I believe that resolution number 4 is what I'm addressing. It was the issue of who gets to participate in setting the agenda. My name is Linda Theodoro, 37 Taffville Ockham Road. Clearly, the current system is not working. I think the simplest method would be to have each party select one individual to present their party's suggestions for the agenda. It does not have to be the same person each time. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else under a citizen comment? Yes, Mr. Crabb.
Good evening, David Crabb, 47 Prospect Street. I'll address resolutions 4 and 5. For resolution 4, I say standardize the language, and I draw your attention to the top line for the change, where it says the mayor shall set the order, whereas the line next to the bottom, drop down there, it identifies that as the order of business. Why not use the order of business in both places? For resolution 5, there's no dollar amount established for this resolution. I would suggest that the membership in the Personnel and Pension Board should only be one city employee. The rest should be taxpaying city residents. I think that transferring the duties and the functions to the council relating to the zoning, planning, and zoning is a nice thought. It's been brought up many times, and the council never adopted it. One thing that always creeps in, and is not here, is for one reason or another, the amount the city can borrow always goes up. I think the amount the city can borrow should be reduced to something like $400,000 or $250,000 tops. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else on citizen comment? Anyone else on citizen comment on resolutions? Seeing no one else, I then declare it closed. Thank you very much.
New business resolutions relative to the aggregate sums representing property and motor vehicle taxes on the grand list October 1st, 2015, being transferred to suspense account.
Motion to bring this resolution forward, please. Alderman DeLucia, is there a second? Alderwoman Philbrick, is there discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Unanimous, vote is 7-0.
Relative to appointments of regular members to the Uncas Health District.
Motion to bring it forward, please. Alderman DeLucia, second Alderwoman Philbrick. Is there discussion?
I didn't raise my hand.
You, oh, sorry, I thought your hand went up. I apologize. Okay, Alderwoman Gould. Is there discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Unanimous, vote is 7-0.
Relative to city manager being authorized to sign the Buckingham Memorial Display Agreement.
Motion to bring it forward. Pro Tem Nash, second. Alderman DeLucia, is there discussion? Alderman Nash?
I just wanted to point out that this was a plaque that was found at the Buckingham Memorial Building in the closet. And if you see this thing, it's an impressive-looking piece of history. It's a marble plaque with a bronze writing of the Gettysburg Address. And I think since we do so much honoring of Abraham Lincoln here in our City Hall, that I felt that having this thing sitting in a closet was really a travesty to our city. And for a very small fee of cleaning, which I even volunteered to do with a little Brasso and some elbow grease, I think we can get that looking really nice and get it displayed in a prominent location here at City Hall for all of us to enjoy a piece of our history. So I will be in favor of this and encourage my fellow council persons to also support. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there further comment? Seeing none, all those in favor? Unanimous, 7-0.
Relative to amending Norwich City Rules of Procedures.
Ask for a motion to table the matter.
Make a motion to table.
Is there a second? Alderwoman Philbrick. All those in favor of tabling?
I'm sorry.
Those opposed?
Mr. Mayor, you did not ask for discussion on that motion.
A motion to table is not debatable. Sorry. Again, all those in favor? All those opposed? Motion passes 4-3. 5, please.
Relative to establishing Charter Revision Commission.
Motion to bring this forward, please. Alderwoman Gould, second by Pro Tem Nash. Is there discussion? Alderwoman Gould.
I would like to amend the resolution to include that the Charter Commission also be charged with the examination of our ethics rules.
Is there a second? Alderman Nash. Ethics rules? Would you like it stated a little clearer? Yes. Is there discussion on the motion to amend to include our ethics rules? Seeing none, all those in favor? You have a question, please? Alderman DeLucia.
Mr. Mayor, at this time, we request a brief recess so that we may caucus for 15 minutes, please.
If you wish.
Thank you.
Motion to recess? Second? All those in favor? That is unanimous.
You have your notes, because
Of the council will come back a little early. Motion to come back, please. Gould and Nash, all those in favor? That's unanimous. Before us is Resolution 5, and there was a motion made and seconded to add to the subject matter ethics rules. Is there any discussion or questions? Seeing none, all those in favor of adding ethics rules? Opposed? Motion carries 4-3. Is there further discussion on the subject matter? Yes, Pro Tem Nash.
I know these are just suggestions, so they're just kind of giving the, if we establish this commission, to give them some guidance to where some of the council persons would like to go. So I would like to make sure, I clarify one of the one of the requests is the establishment of a board of fire commissions for the paid fire department in the city consolidated district. I would also like to add, as well as the TCD area, I would like to see that also have a fire commission. So I'd like to add that to the suggestion from me anyway. And then the other, I would like to add less than 1%. I was thinking of 0.95% of the budget goes to a public safety capital improvement fund. The thought process behind that was that we don't have to bond for fire trucks in the future by putting some of our money away into a fund that can't be used for anything but purchasing of fire apparatus. So I'd like to add those two to the charge, to the commission.
Is there a second? Alderwoman Gould. Is there discussion? All those in favor? All those opposed? Motion carries 4-3. Is there further discussion on the resolution as amended? Yes, Alderman DeLucia.
I would just like to say that it is my position that as the Constitution of the city, this is the last thing that should come under revision unless flawed in some way, and not before we have exhausted all other initiatives to move the city forward. Personally, I suggest that before we take this issue up again, it should follow a special meeting. It should follow, with a defined purpose of developing a vision and a plan to realize that vision. Thank you.
You're welcome, and thank you. Is there further discussion on Resolution 5 as amended? Yes, please, Alderman Burnham.
So I understand the intent of all of this, but it seems to me that we spent 2 full days, and I can't remember, $1,200 or $1,500 on strategic planning. The point of doing that was to lay out priorities and goals and then the work that we're supposed to do is to track to that. None of the items here were raised, discussed, or vetted against what we came up with through a consensus process with this entire body. This kind of tells me that those efforts may have been for nothing, and I would have also liked to see a healthy, it's not me, a healthy discussion with this entire body in a special meeting to be able to compare, contrast these items, proposals, fully flesh out the ideas before it came before this body. The items that were proposed, they seem disparate and not quite cogent yet as it stands now. We have a lot of other priorities to focus on, and I really think we should be discussing those.
Thank you. Is there further comment? Yes, Alderman Browning.
I'm just going to take one of the proposals, the 4-year staggered terms for members of council. This was previously considered by another charter commission and rejected. It was also a situation where over the years, because we have had a number of city council people who are glad to leave after 2 years passed. I can think of at least 2 off the top of my head. We have had at least 2 who unfortunately were not making their meetings on a regular basis, and the fact that it was a 2-year term solved the problem. There was at least one individual I can think of, and this is all since about 2007, who moved out of Norwich either slightly before or slightly after his term ended. In other words, if you're going to go to 4 years, you're going to have an increased rate of special elections, which kind of defeats the purpose. And additionally, pretty much every other municipality goes to 2 years. Our state reps go 2 years. Our state senator goes 2 years. And people who actually have the drive end up doing multiple years. And I would just say to my Republican brethren, why wouldn't you want to replace me with Rob Dempsey after 2 years? I mean, seriously, if people don't like the job I'm doing, you have the right. The referendum on my performance and anyone else here should be after 2 years. That's all I have to say on it.
Thank you. Is there further discussion? I would just, if I may, comment briefly. I agree particularly with what Alderman DeLucia pointed out, working for a vision, long-term planning. I would only point out, though, that this council is limited as to how far you can take that planning. There is a vehicle called our charter, which overrides many of our potential gains for our community with that type of long-term vision. All this resolution would be is ask that we put in place a board of volunteers who are willing to look at that side, and there's nothing that prohibits you as an alderman from bringing to them ideas for that long-term planning and vision. But if you do oppose this resolution at this time, you're shutting the door on enacting that. We can pass ordinances and resolutions. In that development that you speak of, you will find invariably the charter sitting in the way. And if you don't have a vehicle to address that while that's being developed, you're actually delaying that development. So for all the good you speak of, you're standing in its path by voting no, if that is your intent. I just point that out. We can pass resolutions, we can pass ordinances. We cannot amend our charter in this room. That's up to the voters. That's their authority. And you're closing the door on having that opportunity to empower them. And I always think it's best to empower the voters, no matter what choice is in front of them. It should be their decision, not always the elected people. But everyone has the right to vote their conscience. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of the resolution as amended? And those opposed? Okay, the motion passed 4-3, but this requires a 2/3 majority, so it takes 5 votes to create a charter commission. So at this time, the motion fails. Next, please.
Resolution number 6. Do you want me to just read the entirety because it's... Whereas Global City Norwich and Peruvians United of Connecticut, Peruanos Unidas de Connecticut, I don't know how to say that, proposed to host a Peruvian Fest to be held on Sunday, July 29, 2018, from 2:00 p.m. to 6:00 p.m. on Franklin Street between Bath and Willow with the permission of the City of Norwich. And whereas a number of events have been scheduled to be held on Franklin Street as part of the Peruvian Fest, including activities designed for children and special features with information tents and food and retail vendors. And whereas the Chief of Police, as Traffic Authority, has recommended the closure of Franklin Street to vehicular traffic between the intersections of Franklin Street and Bath, with Willow Street's closure to commence at 12:00 noon and run till 7:00 p.m. on July 29, 2018. And whereas the City of the Council of Norwich, by this resolution, intends to grant permission for this use of Franklin Street to express its support of the Peruvian Fest and its sponsors, and to welcome it and the many visitors it will attract to the downtown Norwich. Now, therefore, be resolved by the City Council of Norwich that it is in the support of the Peruvian Fest to be held Sunday, July 29, 2018, from 2:00 p.m. to 6:00 p.m., authorizing it to be held then on Franklin Street with vehicular traffic restricted in accordance with the recommendation of the Chief of Police as traffic authority.
Thank you. Motion and second, please. Gould and Nash, is there discussion, questions? Yes.
I just want to say, this is one of the fun parts about being a councilman. I've been able to sit in on the meetings with Suki and the NCDC and the mayor, and this group who's bringing this festival to us for the first time, I can't tell you the excitement on their faces and their voices and their intentions here. They're very excited about honoring Norwich with this festival this year. They're looking forward to making it many years of a festival, and it's going to be really excited. And we're actually going to have a llama, so that's a fun part that we're going to get to have there. So I really encourage my fellow council persons to support this and to attend the event, because it's going to be very exciting and uplifting in Norwich, not just for our Peruvian citizens, but all of our citizens. So thank you, Suki. Great job.
Thank you. Is there further? Yes, Alderman DeLucia.
I would like to say that I'm excited about this as well. This is exactly the kind of thing we talked about during strategic planning, about having events in the downtown to bring people downtown, get people interacting, and just celebrate our diversity. This is just a wonderful event, and we need more of them. So thank you.
Thank you. Is there further comment? Yes, Alderwoman Gould.
I'm excited to support this resolution, but we also have to give thanks to the Chelsea Groton Bank for bringing the Global City Norwich initiative and the funds to do this these kinds of festivals in the downtown. So we owe a great deal of thanks to them, not taking anything away from Suki or anybody else, but they were the impetus to get this started. So well, I'm going to support this. We also have to thank Michael Rao and Chelsea Groton Bank.
Thank you. Is there further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? It's unanimous. Vote is 7-0.
Resolution 7, whereas the Norwich Harbor Management Commission and the Greater Norwich Area Chamber of Commerce are co-producing Rock the Docks Summer Concert Series 2018, including Rocking the Greens, a Friday night series of acoustic concerts to be held at the Norwich Town Green from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. on the following dates: Friday, July 20th, 2018, Friday, July 27th, 2018, Friday, August 10th, 2018, Friday, August 17th, 2018, Friday, August 27th, 2018, rain day if needed. And whereas this concert series will allow the entire community to enjoy music and entertainment at a scenic location. And whereas the Greater Norwich Area Business and Industry Foundation Incorporated, established the Greater Norwich Area Chamber of Commerce, proposes to make available beer and wine for sale during this concert series to patrons at a location on the Norwich Town Green, the proceeds of which sales shall be used to support the concert series, with the sales to be handled by an appropriately licensed and permitted entity. Now therefore be it resolved by the Council of the City of Norwich that pursuant to Section 13.14.2 of the Norwich Code of Ordinances, City Manager John Salamone be and hereby is authorized to grant the Greater Norwich Area Business and Industry Foundation Incorporated permission to sell beer or wine, the Rock the Docks Summer Concert Series 2018. Celebration is to be held on Fridays as listed above or as scheduled at the Norwich Town Green, subject to satisfactory proof that the Greater Norwich Area Business and Industry Foundation Incorporated has complied with the applicable regulations of the State Liquor Commission. That identification will be mandatory from each person purchasing an alcoholic beverage, that sales of beer and wine will be made under a proper liquor license, and that proper insurances will be obtained and maintained by the Greater Norwich Area Business and Industry Foundation Incorporated and any vendor of beer and/or wine for the event.
Thank you. Motion to bring it forward for discussion. Alderman Gould, second Pro Tem Nash. Is there discussion? Yes, Alderwoman Philbrick.
I have to tell you that most of you know I live on the Green, and as I sat in my chair on Friday night and listened to the concert, I don't know if I want to use the word shocked, but I was certainly a little bit confused by the fact that someone was selling beer and wine. I had seen no correspondence through the city council, but it was on my list of things to do, and I didn't get to it today. But I did have a chance to speak with my neighbors, the people that live on the green, the people that surround the green, many of who have lived there for 30, 40 years. And the consensus is it necessary to have alcohol on the historic Norwich Town Green? And the consensus was no. I can see maybe Rock the Docks downtown. It's a whole different atmosphere. It's a much younger crowd. It's that kind of a crowd where you would expect to have maybe a drink. But the Norwich Town Green is, I don't believe, the appropriate place for alcohol to be served. And having said that, as I said, I spoke to a number of my constituents who happen to be my neighbors, and they were asked me to vote, not to vote in favor of this because, and I was also a little bit shocked to read in here that there's the possibility of rescheduling Rock the Docks on the green. So I just don't think that alcohol has to be served at every event that we have. So for that reason, and I don't believe that the Norwich Town Green, the historic Norwich Town Green, is an appropriate place for alcohol to be served or sold.
Thank you. Is there further discussion? All those in favor of the resolution as offered? Opposed? Motion carries 5-2.
I hereby move pursuant to Connecticut General Statute, Section 1-200, subsection 6, that the members of the Norwich City Council go into executive session for the purpose of discussing the acquisition or disposition of real estate or interest in real estate when publicity regarding the proposed acquisition or disposition would cause a likelihood of an increased price to acquire or a diminished price to dispose of the property, and to review information given the city in confidence not required to be disclosed by law. City Manager John Salamone, Comptroller John Pothier, Corporate Counsel Michael E. Driscoll shall be asked to participate during all or portions of this executive session at the request of the council.
Is there a second? Alderman Nash. All those in favor? Unanimous. Council is in recess for executive session. Room 319, please. Gould, Nash, all those in favor? Unanimous?
We have a motion that was, we have an agenda item that was tabled.
Yep. We do at the moment, yes.
Is it, am I incorrect? And it was my understanding that a tabled motion had to be voted on before the end of the meeting.
No, it could actually come back at the next meeting if brought back by any person who voted in the majority. It can return at the next meeting.
Thank you.
Yes, you're welcome.
Motion to adjourn?
Is there a second? Nash, second. All those in favor?